Latisha is allegedly pregnant with her and Keith's first child together, and I think this is terrible timing because she has her sentencing coming up in just a few days where she's looking at a minimum of 3 years in prison. If you guys have been keeping up with Latisha's identity theft or forgery case or been keeping up with my updates, then you guys know that Latisha's been trying to do anything she can to stall this sentencing. Like a week or two ago, she tried to file a motion and say that she needed to get her sentencing overturned after she decided to plead guilty to these cases she's facing. And then all of a sudden she's trying to say, oh, I didn't understand what I was agreeing to. But the judge was like, oh no, that's not going to work because I made sure that I explained it to you in black and white as easily as possible. So when Latisha tried to file motions to get her plea thrown out, the judge was like, nope, that's not gonna work. And I think they're seeing right through her stall tactics. Well, shout out to All Things Lockup. Follow them on Instagram. They got a lot of Loveafterlockup tea. They revealed that Latisha is trying to delay her sentencing again due to medical reasons. It says, according to her motion to continue filed on Friday, Latisha is intending bi-weekly medical appointments and requests that the sentencing be continued until after the conclusion of those medical appointments in mid-February. The motion reveals that Latisha's lawyer contacted prosecutors in the case and was informed that the state of Iowa is resisting a continuance. Latisha's sentencing is currently scheduled for Thursday afternoon, and she looks to be facing a minimum of 3 years after pleading guilty to felony theft and forgery charges in April. The 3-year minimum prison sentence is because of the habitual offender enhancement due to Latisha's prior felony convictions. Latisha tried to push back all her guilty pleas, but the judge denied the ruling last week. And they shared here where it says that she has sentencing coming up and she's trying to push off the sentencing due to medical appointments. So at first I'm like, what does she need to go see the doctor for every single week until mid-February? Is she suffering from cancer? Like, what is it? Like, I feel like if it's something serious, you would put that in the court filing. Well, shout out to Colleen Miller. She's the one that ended up suing Latisha and won after Latisha stole over $11,000 from her accounting business. And Colleen has had her foot on her neck since Latisha screwed her over. Well, she ended up posting this, and I guess somebody in their town was doing their nails at this nail salon, and Latisha was over right next to them getting her nails done. They said a few weeks ago, my daughter was getting her nails done at a shop in Moline. Latisha was also there getting her nails done, and Latisha was telling the nail tech that she was pregnant. Oh my goodness. And now it makes sense if you think about it. If you think about her having to go to appointments every few weeks. When I was pregnant, I had to go to appointments to the doctor every few weeks up until like the last 2 months when I had to go weekly. And then when you calculate the timing and she's trying to say, oh, I need to push off the sentencing until mid-February after I'm done with all these medical appointments. I went to Google and I tried to search like when her conception date would be if she's due in mid-February. So her conception date would be around May 14th to May 21st. That she conceived, and she would be due in mid-February between February 14th and February 21st if she claims she was due in mid-February, like she's trying to tell the courts that her medical issues would be done then. So I definitely think she's talking about a pregnancy with that person saying that when they said they heard Latisha saying she's pregnant was true. And that is just so irresponsible in my opinion, because she's going to be going through hell being in prison while she's pregnant. There's just so many things that can go wrong with this. Yeah, you may get that extra sack lunch while you're in prison. For those of you guys who don't know, when you're locked up, you get an extra sack lunch. Well, in the jail that I was locked up in years ago, the pregnant people got extra sack lunches with like an extra peanut butter and jelly sandwich, an apple, and a milk to try to help them like meet their protein limits. But even then, like with the food they feed you in prison, it's still not a healthy diet for a baby. Prison diets are just so cheap, high sodium and low nutrients, so it's really hard to maintain the proper nutrition required to have a healthy pregnancy. And plus you got the prison bunks made out of metal, and you're already uncomfortable as hell while you're pregnant. I could not imagine tossing and turning one of those metal bunks, and that's just going to cause a lack of proper physical support, and you're going to have to deal with all the stress of being in prison, and then you risk getting in fights with people in prison. And Latisha's stealing from all these people outside in the streets. No telling what she's willing to do from behind bars. So she's putting that baby at risk. And there's just so many risks that come along with being pregnant while incarcerated. I just saw like a video on social media a few weeks ago of this girl who gave birth in a freaking prison cell, and she was like, she gave birth and she was sitting with the baby for a few hours before anybody even noticed her. And I guess she had been telling people for hours, I'm going into labor. Nobody took her to the hospital. And when you're in prison, you're under their control, so unless they feel like it's fit for you to go to the hospital, a lot of times they won't take you unless it's a huge emergency. And even then, I've heard of huge emergencies getting ignored from CEOs just because they don't want to deal with it. And then I couldn't even imagine having to give birth, because as soon as she gives birth in prison, she's gonna have to get that baby over. So either Keith's gonna have to take the baby, and I don't see Keith willing to take the baby and be a daddy full time and then be a father to all the rest of the kids. Maybe he will and step up, but I don't know, that she's not going to be able to keep the baby, so she's going to have to be separated from the baby as soon as she gives birth. And that would be really hard to deal with, separation right after birth. Like literally you give birth to someone and then they snatch your baby and take the baby from you, and you don't see the baby again for another 3 years until you're released from prison. That's just not healthy for any child. You're going to miss so many milestones, and I don't think it's worth all the trouble that it's going to cause just for her to hope, oh, maybe I'll push my sentencing back a little bit. And from the looks of it, it's not working. And I did a lot of research, and like I said, from what All Things Lockup shared with the court documents, it looks like they're denying this and saying, nope, it doesn't matter, she's having health issues, we're still gonna do her sentencing. And I did some research into this, and it says it doesn't matter like what trimester you're at. You could be in your first or your third trimester. It doesn't matter. A judge will still sentence you for your crimes. Apparently the only time they make exceptions for this, if you're like a week or two away from giving birth when you get sentenced, and in those cases they'll sometimes push it off until afterwards. But with it not being until mid-February, it does not sound like they're falling for that. And I think this is just such a terrible decision on Latisha and Keith's part to even consider bringing a baby into this world with everything that she has hanging over her head at this time. But that's it for this video, guys. Only a few more days till we know the outcome of her sentencing, and I will keep you guys updated on that, so stay tuned for that. But let me know what you guys think about everything in the comments below. Do you guys think that Keith's gonna take the baby after she gives birth? Is she's in prison while she gives birth? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you guys so much for watching.